All right, good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited, and welcome to our weekly podcast known as This Week in Pop Culture, the show in which we bring you up to speed on what went on, in the last week when it comes to pop culture. We try to bring you up to speed so that way you are not left in the wind, whether we're talking about daily news, sports, film and TV and the like. We try to keep you in the loop. But as always, I'm not going to be alone in talking about these said topics. So without further ado, I want to welcome my co-host, my partner in crime, Mr. Smilman Trueheart, Mr. AKA Spills. What's going on, sir?
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? How are we doing out there today? I just don't know about what's going on anymore in the NBA. I don't know who to root for. I don't know, but I think I should. I don't know anymore. Obviously I'm a Laker gang till I die, but they're not playing no more. So we'll see what's going on.
True that, man. Well, we, as you guys can see in the background, as we always do, whenever we have our main topic story, we always make it our background picture that you see, or gift or video, what have you. So we will be diving deep into the Alien Earth trailer that was recently released this past week. But before we do that, there were a couple of things, as Spillman was teasing just now. Some things to discuss. We did have an unfortunate passing that did happen this week, but we also had some news in the theater world. I know we don't talk about theater a whole bunch, but it is relevant to other goings on across other mediums as well, or some relativity there. I can talk today. As well as some sports, of course. So without further ado, Spills, shall we dive in?
Let's get it.
All right, excellent. So we're going to start this week's episode, unfortunately, on a little bit of somber news, as we did have a passing that occurred this past week with Jonathan Joss. And just to go into a little more detail about that, this came by way of Fox 5 News. The actor best known as the voice of John Redcorn on King of the Hill was fatally shot last Sunday near San Antonio. While the SAPD have not officially gone on record regarding what sparked the incident, the deceased's partner, Tristan Kern de Gonzalez, has stated that Joss's death can be attributed to being a hate crime. Jonathan Joss was 59. Spills, your thoughts on the passing of actor Jonathan Joss?
I'm really, the what has come out in the news about his passing is kind of sordid and sad to hear. I hope that what was said about possibly certain kind of certain kind of crimes being perpetrated on him are not true, but neighbor dispute should be no reason that anybody loses their life. It's really unfortunate to
Yeah.
lose such a great actor. Um, I can't imagine living next door to people that hate me enough to take me out of this world. That's got to be unnerving. But this is just truly sad. It just goes to show you that have a long way to come as a country, and we just got to work on just taking care of each other, because we are all worthy of dignity and life, and just to deprive someone of that is just horrible. Yeah, I don't know.
For
What do
sure.
you have to think?
So I'll say this: it's crazy to believe, just as you said, and it's kind of sparking off of what you already have said. It's crazy to believe that we're here in 2024 and we still are at a point where people have to fear for their lives in any form of discrimination, in any form that it takes, if it is indeed true, whether it's race, religion, your politics, your sexual orientation, whatever the case may be. As I said, I hope what's alleged is not true, but if it is, it's pretty shameful that is the reasoning behind why we are now talking about an actor who has or just not even an actor, just a person who has lost their life under any of those circumstances. With that said, as I mentioned before, he brought his talents not only as an actor but also as a voice actor in the show King of the Hill. And in the same way that we have, The Simpsons or Family Guy, King of the Hill was a staple of TV. Additionally, and I didn't even really comment on this. Even outside of King of the Hill, he had stints on other series as well in a live action capacity. He had minor roles in Parks and Recreation and Ray Donovan, Tulsa King, and among many other shows. So he was, a multifaceted, multi-talented performer who, as I said, brought his talents across the board, not just within the voice acting realm, but also even outside of that in a live action capacity on the small screen and elsewhere. So condolences to his family as well as his closest friends. As I said, hopefully what has been alleged, because I know that it's a still ongoing investigation, is not true, but you hate to see anything like that occur. So um, yeah, as I said, unfortunately starting off on a somber note, but I still wanted to be able to provide the space to address that because it is unfortunate.
And
um,
the investigation is still ongoing, so we'll see what they actually do with it. But
for
just
sure,
horrible. We got to do better in this country. Like we're all people. We're all deserving of our time. We're all deserving of our personal space and everything. And
for sure.
if somebody's doing something next to you, you got to move, bro. Like if it's that much of a problem that you want to hurt them, you need to investigate and moving. Like
Right, right. You need
stop
to
being
check in
around
with
people.
yourself. Like I said, it's
Yeah.
crazy to believe here in 2024 that you have like as I said, if it is indeed true that we're having instances of this still happening here in 2024. But I digress. I want to give a shout out to Michael Pia. What's up, Michael? Hope you are well. Good morning. I know good morning where you are because you are on the West Coast. But moving on to our next story. And again, condolences to family and friends of Jonathan Joss. We're going to switch gears to our next story, and this actually deals with something that we don't really talk about a whole bunch here on Movers and Shakers when we have these weekly recap shows in pop culture, but it still falls within that line of that topic, and that is the theater space. So with our segment known as Take the Stage News, we did receive word that Tom Felton will be joining Harry Potter's Broadway show. Let me bring that up now. But yes, it was shared this or announced this past Thursday by actor Tom Felton himself via his social media that he would be making his Broadway debut, reprising his cinematic role of Draco Malfoy in the theater production of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. For those unfamiliar with the premise, Cursed Child picks up where the Harry Potter movies ended, with Harry and Draco as fathers 19 years later who are sending their children to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry for the first time. More specifically, on the theater production's website, the synopsis is as follows. When Harry Potter's headstrong son Albus befriends the son of his fiercest rival, Draco Malfoy, it sparks an unbelievable new journey for them all, with the power to change the past and future forever. Performances of the Broadway play will run at the Lyric Theater in New York City from November 11th to March 22nd, with pre-sale tickets available to purchase uh, not too soon afterwards. So, Spills, your thoughts on Felton returning to the role of Malfoy?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, normally I feel like this is lazy writing when you get
Stunt casting. Yeah.
the all right, we're going to do the kids and we're going to do that. That always bothers me. But today, because I like Tom Felton as Malfoy so much. I actually don't have a problem with this. You know, and also it's not something on TV, so a Broadway show, you got to kind of lean into, all right, these are the people at the ages that they are. That doesn't really bother me as much. I feel like I don't like it as much when, obviously this is 20 years after the Harry Potter movies started. I know that, Brandon likes to talk about the time between things, but this is a Broadway show. I feel like, because he's not like the biggest character actor, and he's basically just known for this role, throw him a bone. I don't really have a problem with this, but congratulations to him. This sounds like it'll be cool. Sounds like he'll be spending a couple of weeks or months in New York City. Everybody I feel like that's a cool thing to do. I really don't have anything bad to say about this. You know,
Okay.
maybe we could get tickets to a show.
I will see. I'll see what I can do.
Yeah,
I'll see what
yeah,
I
but
can do. I'll
yeah,
see
but
what I can do.
that's pretty cool. Congratulations to him.
Yeah, for
How do you
sure.
feel about it?
So I'll say this. Similar to you, I would have come from a space of saying, "Oh, this is stunt casting." Like you're just trying to really, go for nostalgia of having someone who has been in a previous iteration of an ongoing franchise, and so you're trying to, reach for straws by having someone who was in the original iteration, and now you're trying to bring them forth in this new iteration to keep fans that were have been fans from long ago who may have fallen off. But without that cynicism, I'm happy for Felton for this reason, being that a lot of times when you are, and I hear this a lot of times when I've had guests on the show who have done iconic roles, right? And they've talked about how a lot of times it's kind of a bittersweet thing. It can be a curse sometimes because you play a part so well that a lot of times, for whatever reason, either you get asked to keep doing that same character that you've become known for, or you get typecast into that into a similar type of role, similar type of category for that same type of role. If you play villains very well, then more than likely when you get offered other things, you're going to be offered other villains that are of that same ilk. Uh, or if you play, let's see, characters that are authority figures, you play cops a lot, you're going to get cast as cops a lot. And to Felton's credit, once Harry Potter wrapped up, you could tell that he really made a concerted effort to kind of branch out beyond Harry Potter. And to his credit, he has done, some interesting things in terms of the roles that he has tackled in the years since doing Harry Potter. And so a lot of times, it as an artist, it can be very artistically fulfilling to be able to leave something and to kind of branch out and do other things, and then being able to come back to come full circle to something that meant a lot to you and you had a lot of passion for. And I'm sure, like, with that character, it's very important to him. He grew up with that character and grew up as doing that character, so it's definitely, I'm sure, a very important uh, part of his life. But at the same time, I'm sure it makes it all that more rewarding that he has been able to go leave away from the role for a couple of years, doing other things, doing other roles, and then being able to come back to it where he still can can enjoy doing that character without feeling like he isn't being motivated or being fulfilled in his craft as an actor. So, but any last thoughts from you, Spills, before we move on?
No, just congratulations to Tom. Hey, sometimes it's better to book than to not book.
Yeah, and I believe so. I got to double check that. It's been a while since I've caught the Flash, and and having that encyclopedia knowledge of characters or actors that have dropped on the show as guests of the week. I believe so. That sounds right. I feel like maybe it wasn't The Flash, maybe it was Smallville, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. You guys can let me know in the comments. It's been been
No, he was on
been
The
a minute.
Flash. He played
Okay,
Julian Albert slash Alchemy.
there you
It's pretty
go.
fancy.
There
There
you
you go.
go.
Booking stuff. You got to book the
Impressive.
stuff.
Impressive,
Got to book
Mr.
the
P.
stuff.
Impressive, impressive. But what outside of that? What about you guys out there? What are your thoughts on Felton joining the this production of the Harry Potter IP, the Harry Potter franchise? Are you excited that he's having this theater debut? And that's another thing too that I didn't even comment on is that a lot of times when you're doing something that you've never done before, it's nice to be able to do something that you're comfortable with. So, like if you're doing something along the lines of a doing something as a first time thing and something as major as doing a theater production, at least he's doing something for the first time within an entity or a project that he has familiarity with. So that provides some sense of ease, seeing that this will be his Broadway debut. But that's going to do it for what we have for Take the Stage, our Take the Stage segment. I'm going to move on to some other news. So again, congrats to Tom Felton. But the next topic that we are going to dive into deals with sports, as Spills was teasing a little earlier. We've had some we've had some commotion in the world of the NBA on the hardwood, as we had one coach that was sent packing, and we also had a shocker of sorts in terms of Game One of the NBA Finals. So let me bring that up for you guys now. So you guys are probably wondering what I mean here, but following the elimination of the conference finals, the Eastern Conference Finals, that is last Saturday, head coach Tom Thibodeau was sent packing on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, which begs the question of where the Knicks go from here now that they are eliminated and they are now coachless. Meanwhile, the very team that eliminated them in the Eastern Conference Finals actually shocked the favorite to win the finals this past Thursday with a buzzer beater, allowing them to take a 1-0 series lead against, as I said, the finals favorite, which is the Oklahoma City Thunder. So there's a lot to unpack here. I'm going to see if we lost Spills there just for a moment, but while we're waiting for him to return, looks like we have him back.
I return
Spills,
back, ladies and gentlemen.
what are your thoughts, man? Like
I
first,
don't.
first let's start with Thibodeau. I want to
I
get your
was going to
thoughts on
start
Thibodeau.
with Tommy
Please
T.
go ahead.
I feel like this is the struggling thing about sports and how fickle things are with the week. They fired Tom Thibodeau after they went to the conference finals for the first time since half of our listeners were born.
Right?
So to me, it's like, hey, what are you doing? But in the same vein, sometimes it is the coach that's keeping a championship team from winning a championship instead of like, just we just can stick with them and we'll figure it out. Famously with your Warriors, Mark
Yeah.
Jackson was stopping y'all from being the greatest, one of the greatest teams of all time. So
But I'm not
maybe
going to throw shade to Mark Jackson because
no shade.
without the foundation that he set with a lot of the players that we have, we wouldn't have the Warriors as we know them now. So I absolutely agree with you. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
Yeah, I just feel as though Mark Jackson. I
But
mean,
get
Tom
well said.
Thibodeau was a great coach.
Hello,
Just chill
sir.
out. Mr. Baby is here, ladies and
We have a
gentlemen.
cameo.
We've got a cameo from our young Spillman. Um, but I just think that, with Tom Thibodeau, they did great, but there were a lot of what seemingly mental mistakes. But
For sure.
also, I don't know how much you could hold Tom Thibodeau responsible for what seems to be a team of destiny beating them.
Sure. Sure. Well,
There's
I'll
nothing
say
that you
this.
could do about the fact. that Tyrese and them boys just can win games that they're down 15 to 20 points within a
I hear
minute
you.
or so. It just seems as though, like, why would you fire somebody for losing to a team that seemingly is constructed perfectly? You look at the game from game one with the Pacers. Everybody's talking about Halliburton only scored 14, but everybody had basically 15 points. I would rather
Yeah,
my whole team have 15 points than to have to rely on one person to kill it for us. Because if everybody eats. And team is such a big thing in basketball. That's how Kobe and Shaq lost with Karl Malone and Gary Payton all those years ago. That's how the Mavericks beat the Heat in 2011. So to
yeah.
me, team is so important. And if everybody's happy, they seem to do better.
No, I hear you. I'll say this is, I'm not surprised by the decision of of Thibodeau, getting the boot, and the reason being is a lot has been said about his coaching style, and while he is a terrific coach, undoubtedly, there's also been a lot of uh, um, criticism regarding the the nature in which he uses his player rotation, in which there is a very finite amount of players that he's comfortable with using. And you know the issue with that is that I know that there has been a lot of frustration, there has been a lot of confusion as to why there hasn't been an adjustment to utilizing more of your lineup. And
But
unfortunately, it
that's
has.
Tom. That's like,
It
if
is.
you
It
if you
is.
start dating a heavy set woman, to be mad that she's heavy set. It's like, come on, man, this is what you like. This is what you went out to get. You got Tom Thibodeau. He only really plays seven people. Why are you talking about, oh, why don't you play these other guys more? Tom Thibodeau has never played the other guys more. So to me, it just seems like, I don't think that they thought that he was going to take them to the conference finals this year. I think he was going to get fired anyway.
But arguably, you had the personnel to be able to go all the way, and you could also argue because of that very playing style, it has resulted in injuries that otherwise would not have happened had you made the adjustment
I don't know about that.
to do that.
I don't know about that
Because
because the Derrick Rose. I feel like we're all talking about that Derrick Rose injury, but Derrick Rose was a slightly built high flyer. Those guys don't last very long. You look at them in the history of the NBA. If you could jump all over the gym, Penny Hardaway, all these kind of guys. If you dunk a lot, you're going to hurt your knees. That's just what it goes. The human body's not supposed to be jumping 45 inches off the ground and then landing quickly. That's just not how it goes. You're not supposed to be able to explode through two, three people at a time and not hurt yourself. That's just, I just think that, Tom gets a bad rap, obviously.
well, here's the thing: Tom gets a bad rap, but here's the thing. While you say that is, a what comes with the territory when we're talking about Tom Thibodeau, what also, and I'm saying this in a positive way, what also comes with the territory when we're talking with Tom Thibodeau is that you have a hard nosed team that is going to play defense. And if you're going to have a hard nosed team that's going to play defense, to your point, you need to be able to extend beyond that, because we both know this as people that have played basketball at all at various levels. Defense can be draining. It helps to be able to rotate your players if you're going to be playing defense as hard as you're going to be playing it. It works to your advantage of being able to throw more bodies at the other team if you're going to be a hard-nosed defensive team. It's not going to work in your advantage of only playing a very minuscule lineup of people within your rotation if you are going to be a defensive team. If it's an offensive team, you could arguably say that you can use a more finite group because you're just going to be chucking it. You're just going to try to outscore the other team. So there's not really a need to really throw a lot of bodies at the other team. But if you're playing defense can be physically draining, and it's going to be hard to do that if you don't have a lot of players that you are throwing at the other team. And it's going to be a huge drain on those players that you do have that you're playing a lot.
I
So
agree with that. But I mean, also, that's a personnel thing because, We said this last week. Their best two players are not defenders. So, Cat's not a big defender, even though he's one of the biggest guys out there. For them to win a championship, he has to be a defender. Unfortunately, his jump shot is great. He plays the offensive game well. He was attacking the basket well in that last series, but he's got to stop some people. Miles Turner can't win the battle between you two. That's just not something you can go through. And I just think that also no one's blaming Jalen Brunson for not showing up with all those shots he takes. To me, if this was, if Jalen Brunson was like 6'6", we would all have a problem with Jalen Brunson that we don't have. We're happy with Jalen Brunson because we feel like Jalen Brunson is one of us. It's like, oh, if I was in the league, that's how I'll be running people out. Throw them on my back shoulder, spin move, pump it, fall away. Like we would imagine that that's how we would be dealing with the super athletes in the NBA. But he's got to get better on the defense because they were hunting him. I just think that, a coach can't scheme that you are a liability. And I feel like, because we're paying the players so many millions of dollars and we're paying the coach so many millions of dollars, we shall see, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that. I think my son
Yeah.
knocked out my Wi-Fi. That's why we got the power of
Okay,
Apple products. He's in that other room
okay.
going crazy,
Froze
ladies and
it for a
gentlemen. My
second. I was a
son,
little worried. It was
he
all
kicked it.
good.
He kicked it. I knew exactly what it was. That's what I hear him in there running around, kicking stuff.
Hey,
That's what
live show,
happens.
y'all. Live
It's a
show.
live show, but thanks to the power of AT&T and the Apple products, we still with it. You see,
Wow,
seamlessly
really,
I moved it. I knew
really,
exactly what it was
really
because I
that
seen both
plug,
our things. I was like, nope,
shameless
turn
plug.
off the Wi-Fi. That's right.
Okay, okay.
That's right, ladies and
Uh,
gentlemen.
but
But
I
let's
was
move to
gonna
the
say
finals.
I'll say this, and this is just going down, just as you said to your credit spills of what he's been able to accomplish. He surpassed Pat Riley earlier this season, ranking fourth on the franchise's list in victories. He led the Knicks to back 50-win seasons for the first time since 1995. So pre 2000.
That's 30 years ago, ladies and gentlemen.
He knocked out the defending champions in the semifinals. So like he's accomplished, a great deal. So I can see on the other end why people aren't saying, why people are saying, I should say, why didn't you just at least give him another year? But again, like there are some coaches out there that I feel provide that same tenacity that you want with defensive schemes, while at the same time being willing to use more of your lineup. Because I should say one coach that comes to mind in that regard is the Nuggets coach, which we talked about uh, on a different episode of This Week in Pop Culture, in which, unfortunately he was let go of his team. But I feel like he has the tools to be able to be a good fit for the Knicks because he is a very defensive minded a coach. He is a coach that holds players accountable, and on top of that, he is a coach that has finals experience, having helped lead the Nuggets to their first franchise title. So maybe, Spills, you have a different thought on that, but I feel like Mike Malone would actually be the best fit for the Knicks currently, as a coach that's available right now. I don't know your
Um,
thought.
I've heard they said Ime, but Ime got a job. I heard they said Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd got a job. I
Got a
also
job.
heard that they might be trading Cat altogether for Giannis Antetokounmpo
Mm.
because he ain't happy with Milwaukee. So who knows? But maybe I think the coach you said was the Denver Nuggets coach. That was like Bruce something. Isn't his name Bruce?
No, Mike Malone.
Mike Malone. That's the one. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe you could get Mike Malone. I mean, Mike Malone has success with a big center that don't play defense. So to me, I think that may be a better fit for the personnel. Sometimes you gotta match your personnel, but I just don't. I don't know.
I hear you. I hear you. So What about you guys out there? What are your thoughts on what has been going on in the NBA for our NBA fans out there? Let us know in the comments. How do you feel about Tom Thibodeau being let go as the head coach of the Knicks? Are you for it? Are you against it? And additionally, when we're talking about the NBA Finals, how do you feel? And we actually didn't really dive into this spill. So actually, before we get into that, I want to have some space to talk about that briefly too. The fact that the Pacers are still surprising folks with their win against the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's just been insane to think of how much an anomaly the Pacers have been this season in terms of all the teams that, for all intents and purposes, a lot of people thought that they would get eliminated by, but they keep sticking around and they keep, finding ways to win. So, your thoughts on that, because I realized we didn't really dive into that.
I think that the Pacers are wonderfully surprising, but this is kind of what you expect to see when you have teams that don't defend every player. Like a lot of teams are still playing with the old paradigm of, we got to defend your best two defenders, and then we'll give these other guys shots and stuff.
Oh, you mean your best two scores? You mean?
Your best two scorers. I apologize, but defend your best two scorers. Double them and then switch with them and stuff. We hear that a lot, but unfortunately, the real one that you have to do is you got to guard everybody now. Like with switches and everything, you have to guard everybody. Since they're not guarding everybody, it's just, unfortunately, they can beat you because they can guard. And they also, every one of them can score. Every one of them can hit buckets. So to me, because the because the Pacers play 1 through 5, whenever the five is on the court, no matter who the five are, you gotta guard them. So, and the way that they do switches and stuff, it's going to be somebody open all the time. And if whoever's open can make a shot, in the three ball era, I think that we could call this the three ball era. If everybody could make a three,
Yeah, I
then
think that's
what
the
are you supposed to
understatement of the
do?
century that we could call it a three ball era.
It's the three
But
ball era. So I feel like
um,
this is the paradigm shift that it's going to be. It's like who like like we were saying 2 weeks ago. I didn't know who Neesmith was before 2 weeks ago. You didn't know who Neesmith was, but he hit like nine threes in 90 seconds because he was open and he can make them because they were not guarding him. And for so long in the NBA, there've just been people on the court that you just don't have to guard. So if you have to guard all of them, that's a completely different game. So
yeah, no, I hear you. Like I said, I'll just continue to say, while on paper it seems like the Pacers, are not a bad team. They're a good team. On paper, they seem like a good team, but not a great team. They're still somehow finding ways to win. So kudos to them, because I did not have them. I'll be completely forthcoming and say I did not have them getting this far at all this season. So
I mean, he
and,
was on the
and,
Olympic team.
and here we are, and here we are talking about them even winning game one. I didn't even have like, I mean, let me correct that. I do have them making this series interesting. So I still have them at least winning one. Actually, no, I remember you said
No, you did not. I
you
said
said you had
six,
them
and for
winning
the
one more
Thunder,
game. Yeah, that's right.
I
You
have
had
them
them winning
winning
one
two
more game.
games. But
I still have a gentleman sweep, but
I
kudos to them.
also another thing that we didn't really talk about that I haven't really seen people talk about.
What's that?
Um, Chet is a great player, but it's kind of like with football. If you got a young running back and older defenders, they generally know tricks against that running back that he's just not going to know how to deal with. And it seems. I'm sorry, ladies and
No,
gentlemen.
you're good.
I'll
You're
be right.
good.
I'll be right back with you, sir.
No
Um,
problem.
when you look at what he did against Chet on game one and what he'll probably do again tonight, because Chet has played a lot of basketball, but he's not played nearly as much basketball as Miles Turner. The same
Yeah,
thing happened with Shaq when he first got in the league.
yeah,
It just happens with big men. You have to be ready for a more seasoned big man, and there's a lot of things that you just have not experienced or haven't seen enough.
for sure, for sure. So I guess I'll say this: when we're talking about like just that idea of youth versus experience, of having veterans versus younger players. I completely agree with you, Spills, in that there are tricks of the trade that often come into play. But when we're talking about that youth element, I would have agreed with you if we were talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder from last year, because I feel like that team from last year was quite young and inexperienced. As talented as they were, I felt that they weren't as experienced, and I feel like they have gotten this year. They have gotten over that hump of being able to figure out ways to win, because at the if we're talking about the Thunder team of last year, I the Thunder team of last year, I feel wouldn't have gotten past the Nuggets this year. They went all the way down to the wire in terms of that series, and I feel like if we were talking about the Thunder last year, they would not have the grit or the know-how, not just physically but also psychologically, to be able to get past that series. And we would be having a different conversation in which the Nuggets be back would be back in the finals. They would be the team representing the West. But yet here we are. I feel like they have received enough tests this year where they have demonstrated some progression in their ability to close out games. So in the same way that we have, because I feel like this is relative to your team or the history of your team when we're talking about the Lakers, right? Uh, the Lakers in that, if memory serves, in that final series that they had against the Philadelphia 76ers, excuse me, if memory serves, I believe that was in 2001, if memory serves. I'm going to try to see if I had that right with the Lakers and the 76ers. As I said, I believe it was in
No,
2001.
2001,
Yeah,
2001,
yeah, it
because
was
we beat the Pacers
2001.
in 2000, and then in 2001 we had the gentleman's sweep after that
Right.
Ty Lue
That's what I'm
game.
saying. I think we're going to get a repeat of that, because in that series, the Sixers stole game 1. They shocked the Lakers. If memory serves, they shocked the Lakers in LA, if memory serves.
And
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 then
that Lakers team was a historically
and
great
then
team.
after that, that was all
It
she
was
wrote.
16 and 1 in that playoffs. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. But
After that, that was all she wrote. They got sucker punched in the first game, and then after that, they were like, okay, we're not gonna play with this team anymore, and they just swept the rest of the series. So I feel
I
like
think
that.
that that's possible, but I don't feel like that Pacers team is as lopsided a team as this Thunder team is to this Pacers team. Like, I know that Vegas is saying that they are the odds on favorite, and obviously they won 68 games. But the way these two teams are constructed, the places where the Thunder would be weakest or that the Pacers are strongest are kind of like bumping up against each other. And that was kind of on display with the shooting down the stretch and everything. They had 25 turnovers, but only got 11 points off of it. I don't feel like they're going to get 25 turnovers again, but I also don't feel like the Pacers are going to make those same kind of mistakes that they were making again either. So to me, and with that series, I felt like the Sixers came out and just punched the Lakers in the face, and that's not what happened with the Pacers. I think the Pacers came out, weathered the punch in the face from the Thunder, and just got up off the mat like Rocky and just knocked them out in the,
That's fair. That's
the
fair.
last round. So
That's fair.
I
That's
don't
fair.
know. I don't feel like we really have an allegory to this. I just think that this is just a team of destiny. I don't know what else there is. I've never seen a team hit this many buzzer beaters. Like, to just be going to the craps table, jangalang, jangalang, and never hit snake eyes is just amazing.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But what do you guys think out there? How do you guys feel about the? As I said, we talked about Tom Thibodeau being let go, but I also wanted to invest some time in talking about the Pacers taking Game One of the NBA Finals, which happened on Thursday. We have Game Two happening later on tonight, so we'll see what comes of that. If the Pacers shock folks even more and take game two also. I don't see that happening. I see the Thunder evening out the series and making the necessary adjustments. But that's just me. But maybe you guys think differently. You can let us know in the comments who you have in this finals matchup, if you have the Indiana Pacers or the Oklahoma City Thunder. So that's going to do it for what we have with, as I said, sports cooler talk. We're finally going to dive into our main topic, our main subject of this week's show, and that is the official trailer for the FX series Alien Earth, set to arrive in August. Set in the universe of the film franchise of the same name, the synopsis reads as follows. In the year 2120, 2 years prior to the events of Alien and 16 years after Alien Covenant, the Earth is governed by five corporations: Prodigy, Weyland Yutani, Lynch, Dynamic, and Threshold. In this corporate era, cyborgs, humans with biological and artificial parts, and synthetics, humanoid robots with artificial intelligence, exists alongside humans. But the game is changed when the Wonderkind founder and CEO of Prodigy Corporation unlocks a new technological advancement: hybrids, humanoid robots infused with human consciousness. The first hybrid prototype, named Wendy, marks a new dawn in the race for immortality. After Weyland Yutani's spaceship collides with Prodigy City, Wendy and the other hybrids encounter mysterious life forms more terrifying than anyone could have ever imagined. Spills, does this official trailer that we received this week get you more excited for the prequel series?
Actually, I saw this, and much like when I looked at the Stranger Things preview from last week, they are spending a lot of money on these shows. The sets look beautiful. Some of the themes are looking beautiful. I'm very interested to see what they do with this show. I'm very excited to see what they do with the show. It's refreshing to finally get the aliens on Earth because they've been kind of like eating people in space for my whole life for 40 years. They've been eating people in space for 40 years. And now they finally made it to Earth. But, space travel is much farther than they make it appear in the movies. So that
Yeah,
makes sense. It takes about 40 years for aliens to get to Earth once they find it.
right.
If they traveling on slower than light speed vessels, which, obviously they are. Very interested in some of the things they explored in the trailer. I noticed they had a goat I mean, a sheep in one of the scenes, and the sheep that seemed to have a bunch of scientific stuff. Those of you that are a little bit younger, some of our younger watchers, y'all don't know, but the first thing they ever cloned was that they officially ever cloned. We don't know what else they've done out here in these streets, but the first thing that they've ever cloned was a sheep named Dolly. So that's very interesting with that kind of thematic play.
Yes.
Yes. So that's just an interesting thing, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know. I'm interested to see some of the themes they explore. I think that they've been, with the more recent Ridley Scott movies that have come out, and also with some of the other things that have come out that are alien based. I like how they're exploring the theme of Alien a lot more than just putting out a new movie where Alien like acid breaths on people and eats up a bunch of people. Like that's interesting, but like why are the aliens eating people is a good exploration as well.
Yeah, no. So what I'll say is I am excited for sure for this series for a number of reasons. You have corporate rivalries, right? Check. You have xenomorphs. Check. You have androids. Check. One other thing that I feel is not being paid enough attention to. Well, I guess it is to a degree, but it'll get more fascinating as we as the show actually drops are the new monsters. There was. I'm gonna try to see if I can bring it up for you all. Um, a look or a tease of one of the monsters, and what it promises in terms of what it's capable of is quite quite crazy. So let me see if I can get this up for you guys. Let's see. See if I can get this trailer up right now. Um, all right, here we go. 1 second. And this can be found, online, but I wanted to be able to fast forward with some of the things that they do show in this trailer. They give us a peek at one of the because there's supposed to be five creatures, five outside that include the xenomorph, five creatures that are coming into play when it comes to this series. So I wanted to fast forward to that said creature. I'm going to show a peek of what it looks like, and then they have it looks like there's a scene in which the scientists are like studying what it's capable of. So let's see if I can find it here. Here we go. Let me see if it is okay. So I'm looking on the actual screen itself and seeing if I can uh, make out what it says, but it basically says the tentacles, and this is for a creature. Let's see the name that they have listed here, but for this particular creature, it says the tentacles carry extraordinary strength and are built to climb into and dislodge the eye of other living victims. Once replaced in the eye socket, T. oculus uh, takes over the ocular pathways to the brain, overriding the neurotransmissions throughout the body. So you're basically talking about a creature that not only removes the eye socket out of its victims, but actually replaces that said eye of those said victims. And they do give us a look at that creature. So this again, this creature called T. oculus, I believe. Let me see if I can fast forward because they give us a quick glimpse of that said creature. Let me see if I can find it here. But while I'm doing that, Spills, your thoughts on some of the other elements with the show, such as like the additional creatures that are teased, as well as the the idea or the concept of there being other corporations outside of Whaling Yutani, which has basically been the solo corporation that we've had to contend with in the other Alien films and projects.
Yeah, so I think that that's very cool. I think that the way that they've established like the lore of the show in the trailer looks great. I did notice the monsters as well. The monsters, that little monster scream, that was very interesting to me. It seemed like you're saying the Oculus thing, that looked like a scary jellyfish. That's like some
Yeah,
scary
and
sea
as I
stuff.
say, they do give us a peek at it. I'm trying to see if I can if I can locate it here in the trailer. But I'm gonna let me see if I can. I'll remove it just for now. But yeah, like as I said, it's just crazy that you have that we have an opportunity of not only focusing on the xenomorphs, but we have other creatures to contend with as well. That allows us to kind of expand the lore of the Alien franchise, which is cool because there are but so many times that you can make the Alien franchise interesting unless you come up with all of these crazy hybrids, which again they do promise to or seem to promise that they're going to do in this series, but I have yet to see it carried out or actually executed. So okay, I think I found it here. Boom. All right, so let me reshare this now so that way we have a look at this creature and I will warn you, it is a little it is, if you have issues with like squids or creatures with tentacles, I will warn you in advance. But here we go. Let's see. Share. Here we go. See if I can get this back up for you guys. All right, here we go. Should be coming up now. So here's a look at that said Oculus creature that we
Horrifying.
have in the trailer. So it basically has a feature that makes it look like it can be someone else's eye. I don't know how it comes into play. I don't know if by infecting someone else or by attacking someone else, it is able to replicate that eye. But if you could just imagine, kind of like what we had with the recent Suicide Squad with Starro, a creature that can basically, take over, a victim, a host's body by removing is crazy, removing the said victim's eye and replacing that said eye. So we're basically looking at someone who can infiltrate. We can look at a monster that basically can infiltrate into different places, because you don't know if it's the alien that has taken over that person through their eye, or if it is that person. So I feel like that would provide some interesting story elements for this upcoming series, that I can imagine, where we're left on cliffhangers regarding certain episodes, because we come to find out, like, oh, that's not really the person. Oh, the alien was able to take over that person, and we didn't know when it transpired, when it was able to infiltrate that said place. So I could already see some interesting things they could do with that said monster. And that's just one monster, guys, because like I said, there are five of them. There are other monsters outside of the xenomorph, outside of this creature. That leaves us three other monsters to contend with as well. We don't know how they operate. If they have some parasitic, quality about them that makes them equally dangerous to the xenomorph and this creature. So very excited about it. And being that I am excited about this show, I wanted to make an announcement, and that remove this here, that we will be doing a weekly show breaking down the episodes of Alien Earth. So it will be called Game Over, the Alien Earth podcast. So be on the lookout for that. We're going to be airing the show on Saturdays following each episode, which, as it stands right now, based on the release date for Alien Earth will the episodes will be falling on Tuesdays. So that will give each of you guys, a couple of days to marinate with that episode, and it also give us a couple of days to marinate on it, while we have a live show giving a breakdown of each episode. And in true, episode breakdown form that we've done here in the past, I'm also going to have some special guests every single week with each episode to discuss what went down on this series. So super excited about that. But as I said, it will be dropping. Each episode will be dropping the Saturday following that said episode that aired on Tuesday. So did want to make that quick announcement, so that way you guys have a a sense of what we have going over here at Movers and Shakers Unlimited. There are a few other shows that we plan on doing breakdowns on, so be on the lookout for that. One of them is a Marvel show, I can say. So super excited about that. But yeah, any last thoughts, Bills, about this series before we wrap up here?
Yeah, just very interested to see what they do with it. Obviously they're playing with the idea that aliens are invaders into our culture, but also they're talking about those hybrid androids being invaders into our culture as well, which is very very poignant in this time and day because they try to get rid
With
of everybody's
androids and
jobs.
AI and all that
They're getting
stuff.
rid of
Yeah,
everybody's jobs. So we'll see what it does. Before long, we all just gonna be digging holes because that's what people will be able to do, or like doing other stuff that's takes no brain power. But we'll figure it out.
yeah.
Also, one other thing we did just talk about the Sixers and Lakers. Shout out to Allen Iverson on your 50th birthday, big fella.
Shout out for sure,
Yeah,
for sure,
AI,
for
Bubba
sure.
Chuck,
50,
representing the
man.
757. Who
50.
would have thought that Allen Iverson would be 50? He always seemed like a paragon of youth and youthfulness. For him to be 50 years old is crazy.
All I'm saying, Spillman, we talking about practice.
I'm talking about not
Practice.
a game.
Not a game.
Not a
Practice.
game. I'm the MVP of the
Right.
league.
Right. Practice.
Practice.
But that's going to do it here at This Week in Pop Culture. As always, I want to thank you guys for watching live, as well as for those of you that watch us after the fact. Make sure, in either case, whether you're watching us live, to let us know if you're watching, or if you had any thoughts and comments about what we talked about in today's show. And as always, I will have each of the topics time stamped, so that way you can skip ahead to any of the given topics that we did to discuss on today's show. With that out of the way, Spills, I will punt it over to you, sir. Tell folks where they can find you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can find me at Truly Spill on Instagram.com. We'll talk about all kinds of fun things there. You can also see me weekly here. Make sure that you like and subscribe and give us 5 stars. And like Brandon was saying, add comments. That helps the show to get out there. And, we can continue to bring it to you every week.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned at the top, am your host, Brandon Choi, co-creator of Movies and Shakers Unlimited. You can find me at Brandon Choi ENT on X, and then Brandon Choi _ENT on Instagram. That's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, y'all, and see you soon. Peace.
Peace.